A very good morning to you and welcome to Breakfast Extra. This morning I bring you your morning motivation because like many of you, I dare to be great. Not because I come from Africa, but because Africa also comes from me. What I just said right now is brand ownership. It's not representation, neither is it symbolism. This is identity as authorship. This morning we reflect on the brand called Africa. Africa, yes. Not merely as a continent on the map, not as a recurring headline, but as a living archive of memory, struggle, genius, and unfinished work. When Thabo Mbeki declared, "I am an African," he wasn't merely reciting poetry, he was asserting historical consciousness. When Patrice Lumumba said, "We are going to show the world that what a black man can do when he works in freedom," he was speaking to dignity reclaimed. And of course, when Tata Nelson Mandela reminded us that it always seems impossible until it is done, he was documenting the discipline of perseverance. Now, this morning, those are not just speeches, they were declarations of ownership. And this weekend, ownership was tested. It was tested quietly, it was tested procedurally, and it was tested democratically. In Abuja Municipal Area Council, also known as AMAC, and in parts of river states, as citizens stepped into polling units, not merely as voters, but as participants in Africa's ongoing political evolution. Because truly, democracy is not an event. It is a habit. It is participation practiced over time. It is accountability embodied in culture. It is identity in motion. Across the Federal Capital Territory, over 1 million registered voters had the opportunity to choose leaders and leadership at a level closest to daily life. This means roads, sanitation, schools, markets, security, the ordinary structures that quietly define dignity. Now in River State, by-elections in Adoha East and Kana reminded us that representation is never abstract. It is local, immediate, and it is very, very personal. And perhaps, just perhaps, this is where the conversation becomes even deeper. To own the brand called Africa means loving it more than we resent its imperfections. And I say this because this means restraining or resisting the ease to cynicism. It means understanding that withdrawal is also a political act. This also means recognizing that silence shapes outcomes just as much as participation does as well. Ownership looks subtle when you look at it with your own eye, but it looks like carrying identity with quiet confidence, not shrinking one's Africanness for global comfort, and not surrendering one's civic voice to intimidation. It looks like excellence as resistance. For centuries, Africa has been described through the language of deceit, poverty, instability, extraction. But governance marked by competence, integrity, and vision becomes a counter archive. And ownership looks again like authorship. It doesn't look like victims. It doesn't look like a mascot, but it looks like custodians of narrative. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo once observed that, and he said, "Africa has no business being poor." One might extend that reflection where we say our communities have no business being mismanaged, because the brand of Africa is not defined by commentary. It is defined by our conduct in small polling units, in local councils, in everyday decisions. You and I, you carry in your daily civic choices the possibilities of over 1 billion people, not as a burden, but as an inheritance. So this morning, perhaps the question is not whether you are an African. The question rather is, do you participate and do you practice Africa in your participation, in your excellence, and in your responsibility? Are you African only by documentation, or are you African also by your disciplines? Because democracy, like identity, demands embodiment. It asks you to show up. It asks you to stay engaged. And yes, it does ask you to believe in the slow, patient work of nation building. Like Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it is done. And I do believe that you and I can do it. Good morning once again, and welcome to your Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra. I'm never by myself. I'm always joined by Mazino. Good morning, Mazino.
Good morning, Inam. Do you ever think that the day might come when you might be alone on the show?
No, I do not think about that day.
It could happen.
I don't even wish for that day.
Get ready for next week. Okay, welcome to Breakfast Extra. Yes, indeed. It was very interesting seeing the elections from yesterday, and today we get to see and wait for the results. So we'll be announcing that here on the show, and I hope you're as excited as I am, because I kind of like already knew what the results were going to be. Personal opinion. But yeah, when you get back, we'll discuss that, as well as getting to our correspondents across Abuja to give us details. So I'm looking forward. Welcome. Good morning again and welcome. This is Breakfast Extra and, of course, the Sunday edition. Now, on today's edition, we bring you the stories shaping conversations across Nigeria and, of course, beyond. We begin in Nigeria's capital, the Federal Capital Territory, where residents headed to the polls in the FCT Area Council elections yesterday. This morning, we will examine the conduct of the elections, concerns raised by voters and also stakeholders, and the critical process of vote collation. Next, we turn to a deeply sensitive but necessary national conversation. Rising concerns over sexual violence and the urgent calls for stronger protection for victims, while also ensuring fairness and justice in cases of false accusations. In light of recent development involving a Nigerian social media personality, we explore how society can strike a balance, advocating firmly for an end to sexual violence while also upholding principles of truth, justice, and due process. On Focus Africa today, we head to South Africa once again, where Bellarmine Mugabe, son of former Zimbabwean leader Robert Mugabe, faces serious legal challenges following his arrest on charges of attempted murder. We examine the legal and political implications of this developing story and also what it means for the Mugabe legacy. And back here in Nigeria, political tensions continue to unfold in Rivers State, where a recent by-election has raised concerns and questions about electoral conduct, political stability, and the road ahead. Our correspondent will bring us up to speed with on-ground insight in what Nigerians should expect moving forward. And finally, Nigerians continue to push boundaries on the global stage. From endurance magic performance to ambitious storytelling projects, the pursuit of recognition by Guinness World Records is inspiring a new wave of determination. But what drives this growing trend? Is it passion? Is it purpose? Is it national pride? Or the pursuit of fame? We explore the motivations, the sacrifice, and the meaning behind these extraordinary attempts right here on Breakfast Extra. All these and more we'll be informing you about, engaging you with, and of course exploring together the stories that matter most this Sunday morning. Welcome to Breakfast Extra. Yes, indeed. Now, we are going to be joining our studios in Abuja for the continuation from yesterday's observation of the Abuja Area Council elections. And of course, we have guests. Now, the people of the Federal Capital Territory have spoken as residents across the 6 area councils participated in an election widely seen as a critical test of grassroots democracy. From voter turnout to the conduct of officials and the transparency of the collation process, attention is now focused on whether the election met the standards of credibility and accountability expected by Nigerians. So local government elections are often described as the closest form of governance to the people, and their credibility plays a major role in shaping public trust in the broader democratic system. Questions are now being asked about how smoothly the process went, how transparent the collation has been, and what this means for future elections under the supervision of the independent National Electoral Commission.
Joining us now to examine the conduct, the credibility, and the accountability of the FCT Area Council elections are 2 distinguished guests. We have Bukola Idowu, team lead at the development, apologies. And we're also joined by Dr. Barry Johnson, a country director of Votes Must Count International Initiative, a strong advocate for electoral transparency and citizen participation. Mazino, we've got one more.
Yes, indeed. We're also joined this morning by Umar Danasabe Mohammed, Senior Programs Manager, Democratic Accountability and Election Impact Development Initiative. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Dr. Johnson, good to see you again this morning. Umar, you weren't with us yesterday, but we had very interesting conversations with Dr. Johnson yesterday. And this morning we've had a pre-conversation, which That's not the one that's going to go on air. But it was interesting to see from a no-holds-barred perspective what your thoughts were, gentlemen. I'm sure we can share some of those, however, without some of the choice words that we chose to use from before. Dr. Johnson, let's get an overview from you what the elections were like yesterday.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'll say good morning, Nigeria. For me, for Vote Must Count International Initiative, we'll let the world know the truth. We'll let the world know that the politics of Nigeria is a serious shame. It's a serious shame. We saw what happened yesterday. This is not an election. This is a selection of those the President of Nigeria and the Honorable Minister Nyesom Wike are interested in giving power to. You can see that it's all about the APC with the influence of the PDP by the corner. And it's a sad experience that the Honorable Minister could use state power to capture the politics and the election of the FCT. The Nyesom Wike has no business in the conduct of the election, but you saw the role he played. We saw him all over the place going to supervise the election. Is that his business? Does he work for INEC? Those are the things you ask. And again, you also see the by force curfew sit at home restriction of movement. If you understand the politics of the FCT and the elections over the years, you understand that freedom of movement is one of the major roles for a successful elections in the FCT, most especially at the Abuja Municipal Area Council, where most people register in their business places. And by that restriction of movement is an automatic restriction of the disenfranchisement of voters in AMAC. And that is one of the systematic ways to make sure that people who are supposed to win this election don't even have more than 10 votes. And you can also see the thuggery, the vote buying, and the stealing of ballot box, and the fighting of the opposition people. Man, this is not an election. In fact, Vote Must Count used this opportunity to reject whatever result presented by INEC in connivance with Ahmed Bola Tinubu's APC and the FCT minister at the same time. You see, truth be said, the FCT people, most especially those living in Amak, exactly did not do well at all by not coming out, because you confirm that these elections, if you go to some polling units, 0 voters. So what exactly is the reason why money is spent for these elections? 0 voting. Do you know what it means to have a 0 voting? It's a shame. The duties of citizens in the FCT must be helped to educate these people. Nigerians don't exactly know the reason why they are Nigerians, and the reason why they have to vote, and the reason why their vote must count. If you don't vote in Nigeria, the government will use the vote. The government will vote for you. Nyesom Wike will vote for you. INEC will vote for you, and their result will count, not your own vote. So if you exactly really want your vote to count, you must come out on election day and show and practice, and you participate in the electioneering process, and stop shouting that the government has rigged you out. You rigged yourself out by not coming out, and this is sad. Honestly, this is sad.
Dr. Berry, it's interesting what you've just said there, but I dare to ask publicly, your vote counts. This is the narrative that we are always pushing on the African continent, and everywhere for that matter. But let's take into consideration what you mentioned earlier with regards to the vote buying. I know there were some videos trending. I don't know if you saw them, Mazina, where you literally saw people being given 1,000 naira and a bottle of Fanta for them to go and vote. So my question now then looks at we saw as well ballot papers going missing. Do Nigerian votes, do the votes of the people actually really count? Because I think right now it's beginning to look like a deflated kind of, what's the word, Mazina, help me?
I wish I knew. I can't.
The hope, hope deferred. That's it. Okay. It's beginning to look like a hope deferred situation where people are actually like, I'm going to go and vote, but is my vote really going to make that change? So I think, help me, does the vote of an individual actually really count?
Yes, the vote of Nigerians count if Nigerians want it to count. You know the kind of country that you are. You know the kind of political players that you have. Since 1960, those who captured Nigeria, we can see the reflection of bringing Nigeria back and forth. And if we exactly want Nigeria to have a turnaround, what exactly do? We make our vote count. And how do we make that count? We come out on election day, follow the law, cast your vote, protect it. How do you protect the vote? You stay there until these votes are counted, until they are transmitted, until they become results. But no way. In Nigeria, you don't see this. Nigerians just come and vote and walk away. On election day is the day you want to go out with one lady. On election day is the day you want to watch that movie. On election day is the day you want to play football on the road. Come on, let's be serious for once. The citizens of Nigeria have not done well at all. With the example that we saw yesterday in the Federal Capital City, most especially in Amak, the center, the most important local government area in Nigeria. If you want your vote to count, it is you who has the votes that will make it count. Okay. How do you do that? Again, come out, cast your vote, stay there until it's casted, until it's counted, stay there until it's collated, stay there until it becomes a vote, stay there until it becomes a result. That's the only way, because you are dealing with people who don't understand politics. You are dealing with people who are political criminals, jumping from one political party to the other. You are dealing with people who don't care about the citizens. You are dealing with people who come with policies that is killing. You are dealing with people who are looters. You are dealing with people who understand that the democracy of Nigeria is not something anybody should protect. You are dealing with people who come into government with the thinking of stealing, and nothing happens. So how do you compare that? You must fight them. How do you fight them? Use the Constitution, use the Electoral Act that gives you the opportunity to be a voter. We created this Vote Must Count international initiative. We call it the VMCII since 2010. And we have been doing everything to educate Nigerians on what we have to do as citizens. The citizenry of Nigeria is even worse compared to the leadership. Those who are leading you in this country, all together with them, their wives, their brothers, their sisters, their girlfriends in all the hotels in Abuja, they are not up to 5,000 people. But you, 250 million useless citizens who cannot come together to decide that their country must change. Look at Amak. Amak has almost more than 300,000 votes. How many people came out yesterday to vote? After I left your studio yesterday, I was driving around and in Amak, empty polling units. And the coppers and the police are just sitting down doing nothing. You are giving the ruling party the opportunity to continue to rule. You are giving people like Nyesom Wike the opportunity to vote for you. You know the capacity of Nyesom Wike. You know the capacity of the FCT minister. You know how he became minister. You know what he did in Rivers. You gave him all the chance to rig you out. That is what we are talking about. We have this evidence that votes were bought. We have the evidence that people were stopped from coming out to vote. Because if you follow the history of the politics of the FCT, you understand that people register to vote in their places of work. And this is the first time Nigerians have been restricted from moving on election day in the FCT. And it is a tactic to rig the people out. So we are calling on everyone who needs to hear. Everyone, both President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, he must understand that democracy is supposed to be something that deals with freedom. The vote of the people must count, and we have come to tell the world that this election is not acceptable. And INEC must grow up. That INEC chairman must understand that INEC is not a classroom where people go to learn. If you don't understand the politics of elections in Nigeria, reject the appointment to become the INEC chairman, or we label you as an extension of the APC and a political party instead of being an election umpire where you conduct elections. You end up joining forces with the police, joining forces with Nyesom Wike, who stands in two political parties at a time, joining the president of Nigeria to reject Nigerians, to make sure that Nigerians don't have the opportunity to vote. This is the truth, and we have evidence over this.
Okay. Doctor, this is a very interesting redress, the way you've put it as against from before, which is, it captures everything that you said before the show started. However, I wanted to talk about this, complacency versus, well, restriction versus disenfranchisement. We're talking about two different people here, the voters and the authority. If these restrictions were put in place, and you say it seems like as if it kind of like disenfranchised people to go out and vote, but then again, how educated are the people themselves to have known what to do in the first place, the right thing to do in the first place? Umar, you are an election observer yourself. I mean, today we're getting the results collated, and I'm wondering what you think about this. Where's the balance between the electorate and the authorities themselves?
Thank you very much for having me. Collation has been concluded. Results are currently being collated, put together, and announced across the wards and the local government headquarters. KDI, under the Ballot Integrity Project, we are monitoring this result collation process. And from what we are seeing on the IREV, we are gradually tabulating and we are getting feedback as regard what is going on. By the time we clean up the data, we'll be able to tell, what's, has happened in terms of result management, which is very, very critical. And we've been having conversation with the electoral umpire as regard result management across all elections in Nigeria. Meanwhile, from the management process, especially on what we are seeing on the IREV, we saw a bit of module up, in the result upload process. For chairmanship side of the portal, you see, councillorship results uploaded in those places. Then for the councillorship part of the IREV portal, in some cases, you see chairmanship results uploaded. Whatever may have caused this, we don't know, but this boils down to, the quality of training that we're giving to the INEC officials, and better still, part of the conversation as regard the IREV upload, and real-time transmission and conversation, and all that conversation. For us, we feel this situation needs to improve, because the result viewing portal is something, it's a system that is put in place for citizens to be able to track, result management process, to be able to tell on their own, what has happened at the various polling units. This has been a conversation that has been ongoing. You could recall, the situation we had with the National Assembly as regard, this particular portal. Seeing what has happened with the FCT, results upload is really, really worrisome. More so that the upload started, the view of the uploaded results started very late. We couldn't see the results until, late in the evenings. You recall that the elections took place and it's supposed to be concluded at 2:30. With the low voter turnout, we expected to start seeing results on the IREV portal as early as 2:30 thereabout. We couldn't view any results on the portal up until late in the evenings. And that for us is very, very worrisome and brings to the front border, the conversation about result management and even the IREV portal as we've had it coming.
Umar, you just put two things together here, and Dr. Johnson actually mentioned, he spoke extensively about participation. Now, how has participation affected transparency of the elections when it comes to the collation of the results, especially noting the low turnout? There was one instance where in Kubwa there was a unit with 700 registered voters, but only 50 people turned out. And you also just mentioned that the low turnout we should have expected easier and quicker collation. So how has that affected the transparency of these collations?
So for us, we believe that voter turnout should play a very good role in terms of the results, because a large chunk of the people who will be governed by whoever gets elected would have that position, to select whoever would emerge. But what we saw in that election was actually, very few numbers of people coming out. I personally, at AYA polling units, at the front of one of the banks there, I think unit 017 or thereabout, that polling unit has about 1,700 registered voters. As at 12 noon, when I got there, they had just 8 accreditation on the BVAS machine. So this speaks volume to the quality of elections that we had in FCT. For me, I think what I observed yesterday, and I will speak directly, to the outcome of the result and even the result management process, is that for the urban area, the municipal area, we discovered there was low voter turnout, and this low voter turnout can easily be tied to, activities that preceded the elections. For instance, that you spoke about the knowledge of the voters as regard what is happening. Before the election, we had that issues with the National Assembly where whether to transmit real time, and all that. And a whole lot of Nigerians came forward to say, with the way the National Assembly has voted on the electoral amendment bill, that they are not going to show up, to vote in elections again. That is one part, to the low voter turnout. Another thing that we have noticed also that has affected voter turnout, irrespective of the fact that FCT has always have, low voter turnout. But when compared to what happened yesterday, it's another kettle entirely. So I will state that the curfew declared, the 2 curfew declared, ahead of the election also affected turnout. You have the Wike curfew, you have the Nigeria police curfew. And we expected that the Nigeria police will come out to debunk or, clarify as regard what the Wike curfew has declared. What is the Nigeria police position on that? Because we all know, according to our laws, police are supposed to provide security for elections. But what we saw was that the FCT minister, gave his own timing, which is different from that of police, and throw the entire city into apprehension. Even for me to move from my office to the data center, we had to start, moving very quickly so that we don't, we don't violate the 8 p.m. curfew. Ordinarily, we will move at our own time, set up in the evenings, to the next day in the morning. So we know that this also affected voters, turnout, because voters, just as my colleague has mentioned, that voters, most of the voters in FCT, especially the municipal area, registered in their place of work. So they will need to move from their place of residence to their place of work to be able to exercise their franchise. But from what we have seen is that the timing for the curfew was even skewed against the voter. Then another factor we have seen that affected turnout and that will speak volume, to the integrity of the result was that mobilization was done at the fringes of FCT. Right. Voter mobilizations was done at the fringes of FCT. If you go to Buhari, you go to Abaji, you go to, all these area councils that are flanking the municipal area council, you will notice that the turnout is a bit improved. But then those are the places where you see political party agents telling a voter how to vote, who to vote for. And what security agencies did tactically for that election was to...
Mr. Umar, let's just take a pause on that. When we come back from the break, I'll let you finish your answer. We're going on a quick break now, but when we return, we delve deeper into the results and the process of elections in Abuja. Do you stay with us?
Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra here, and we're still considering and looking at the elections from yesterday as we expect the collations and results for today. We have in our Abuja studios speaking with us Dr. Barry Johnson and Umar Mohammed. Now, Umar Mohammed, before we went on that break, you were speaking, and I was wondering if you wanted to finish that. But while you're doing that, I also wanted you to talk about the disparity between the urban Abuja areas like Amak and the rest 5 of the councils. What kind of observations did you observe when it came to participation and also transparency of how the processes went yesterday?
So I can easily just link, the participation dichotomy between urban and the rural Abuja area easily to one, the issue of awareness on the election itself and the dynamics around the elections. For the urban centers, we have mentioned that most people voted at the place where they work. At the same time, you can easily link, the urban center people to their attitude towards election in itself. The basic amenities that the people at the rural part of Abuja lacks, the urban center has a bit of it. Good road, good water network, security, and all that. These are the primary responsibilities of government. And the urban center, you can easily say, they have this within their reach. They can easily decide to say they are not interested, in the election. More so, the issues that preceded the election, the urban center people are probably very open to it, and they can easily take decisions based off on that. But in the rural area where you have, deficits in terms of political education, and all that, mobilization becomes much more easier for political parties, to mobilize the people out. At the same time, poverty is very, very high, in the rural area. For 1,000 naira and a bottle of Fanta, people will gladly rush out to come and vote. And for those few that are a bit enlightened, you can say because of the deficit of these basic amenities, that puts them, more interested, in electing who governs them. Ultimately, in the rural area also, you can say that the candidates who, across all political parties, are probably known to the voters. So they can easily, be able to hold them to account and come out and vote for them. But in the urban area, most times what we see are people, who are just running for office are mostly the urban dwellers do not even know them, and they are not interested. That is that disconnect. But what we saw yesterday was that most of the shady deals that happened as regard that election happened in the rural, aspect of Abuja. And to continue where I stopped, we discovered that security agencies, in the course of enforcing, that curfew, restriction of movement, for the elections, cordon off, major roads that leads to, these rural areas. And what we saw yesterday was that the violators of this restriction of movement who drove, the security agencies didn't manage, the way they want to enforce, that movement. So what we saw was that the barricade, vehicles just go load up to the barricade, and critical election day workers couldn't pass through because a very good example is towards Buhari. We have a roadblock where vehicles blocked, choked up the roadblock, and observers could not go through. In fact, even INEC officials like RACTEC guys, the IT guys, who are supposed to, provide, repairs to the BVAS machines where it has any situation, couldn't even access the rural areas. Security agencies couldn't pass through. Even observers couldn't pass through. The same thing happens at Nyanya. The same thing happened on your way to Abaji. So what we saw yesterday was a tactical blockade of essential poll workers, both security, the INEC itself, and even observer group that couldn't go through to the rural areas. And all we are seeing as regard the election, including what even you, the media, was showing to us, happened in the rural area and not the urban area. So what we may likely see as regard result management is that the issues as regard result management may likely come from the urban areas, which couldn't be monitored by election day workers, and a whole lot of things happened in those places.
Mr. Umar, sorry if I can just interject. Let me move to Dr. Johnson. because I really liked the useless statement you made there. In quote, of course. Sir, I want to get your take, taking into consideration the fact that 2027 we're going into, I'm not going to say these aren't critical, but more critical elections. Let's look at the grassroots. Of course, we can go into the urban areas. If we're seeing a situation where 1,000 naira and Fanta is being given and your vote automatically goes to whomever you want me to vote for because you gave me this amount of money, what does this say about the education and the campaigning, so to speak, that needs to be done in the grassroots and rural areas in order for people to be well informed about the decisions that they are supposed to make and what this says and speaks to the future of Nigeria? Because right now it sounds as though, well, we don't care. I need the 1,000 naira. The government is not doing anything for me anyway, so this will, you know, at least give me that daily bread. How do we educate people for them to understand what you and I had spoken about earlier with regards to that your vote counts and it is needed for you to do the right thing and not have the instant gratification of the 1,000 naira?
Well, I am very, very clear about this, that it has been the problem of our elections since 2010 when we formed the Vote Must Count International Initiative. And we have carried out little researches across boards and decided that it is a clear manifestation that Nigeria needs to come back to where it is. Nigeria is supposed to be a country in the hands of the people, not in the hands of some few elements who think they have kidnapped us using their father, their brother, their sister, their uncle, and that about that. But you see, what we need to do is calling on Nigerians to support what we are doing, voter education. Like INEC, who presents a budget of 1 trillion, and at the end of the day, will loot and steal all the money in the issue of voter education. Are you telling me that INEC does not do a budget for voter education? In this FCT election, how much was given to your station? How much was given to the private sector station? Your station is a private sector organization as a watchdog to Nigerians and as a station who gives Nigerians the opportunity to hear themselves. This is one station we should respect. But let me ask you the question again. How much was given as a subvention from INEC to your station? No money. That money was stolen by INEC itself. You see, we have to start calling out people who commit crimes against the development of Nigeria. Are you saying that this INEC did not receive any budget for the sensitization of voters? Which medium did they use? How much was given to this station? Are you saying this station does not warrant any payment from INEC to do this job? So exactly, even the political parties. How many people did the political party give orientation to? It means that Nigeria has an illiterate electorate
100%.
who does not understand their rights and privileges. So practically, we are calling on people of the world, those who love democracy, those who love Nigeria. Join us. It cannot be a Dr. Barry thing alone. I was opportune to form Vote Must Count. What about you who is watching today? Why not join me to educate our people in the post-primary school, those who will qualify by age very soon to join the voting list, to understand what voting is, to understand why you need to vote, to understand why your rights has very, very strong stain on deciding who should lead you. Nigerians need to know this. This is the opportunity these people in government take. They seized this chance. Look at what Nyesom Wike did in the FCT yesterday. If Nigeria is to be a good country or a country that is working, where is the Inspector General of Police? Is Nyesom Wike above being invited by the Inspector General of Police? Can't he be arrested? Can't he be called to caution? Is he the father? Is he the owner of the FCT? Those are the things we should ask. Is he above arrest? Is he above invitation? The minister should be called to order. We cannot just sit down and think this country will work when people are doing things without calling them to order. You call Peter Obi to order when he makes a mistake, the obedient will shout. You call Atiku to order when he makes a mistake, the articulated will shout. You call Ahmed Bola Tinubu to order when he makes wrong statements and wrong decisions on the economy. Agbadorians will shout. You call Rotimi to action. Maybe if Rotimi makes a mistake, amichified people will say, why are you disturbing our candidate? Why are you disturbing our preferred candidate? Nigerians, it's time for you to step up. God has already blessed you with the best stations in the world. This station I'm talking now, do you know how many million people listen to me? Take the opportunity. Speak to yourselves. It is your right to do the right thing. Look at the FCT. People who wanted to vote from the Nyanya axis, they locked them up. If you understand the politics of the FCT, you will know that people who vote in AMAC are people who register in their business places. These people are disenfranchised. This is a by force sit at home by the minister. It is wrong. That is why we are calling on the people of the world, because we cannot call Ahmed Bola Tinubu anymore because he's part and parcel of INEC until he has no right deciding who becomes the INEC chairman. Moreover, this INEC chairman too will be, in fact, let me even tell you, with the little investigation we have carried out with the activities of the election yesterday, it is clear that this INEC chairman is even 1 billion times worse than Mahmoud Yakubu, because he does not understand what election is about. Yeah, I don't think this INEC chairman understands that it's time for Nigeria to take back its country. I don't think this INEC chairman knows that we have an illiterate electorate that needs to be educated. We should do this and we should do it right. It is time for us to call up people. I'm not calling out anybody because I just want to call names. Nigeria is a place where when you call names of people who commit crime, they'll come out for you. A man dies but once. The highest you can do is to kill me, but the truth is spilled. I will say it the way it is without fear or favor. Nigeria has come to a time where the right thing must be done at the right time. The vote of the people must count. And the only way it will count is when the people are given the privilege to cast their vote and to also protect it. Thank you.
Dr. Johnson, that was yet again another interesting input there by you. But I wanted to put everything here together now. Let's take a look at credibility of this current election here for 2026. Let's also take a look at voter education, and let's push that forward to 2027. Do you think, well, I don't know whether credibility or lack of credibility, voter education, is it too late to start educating the electorate in view of 2027? This question is actually for both of you. Umar, you can as well go after Dr. Johnson has. But Dr. Johnson, let's keep it summary this time, please.
Yeah, I think if we need to have a robust 2027 general election, the INEC needs to repent from their bad deeds. INEC, the chairman of INEC needs to repent. The people working with the chairman needs to repent. The National Assembly needs to repent. The INEC is called an independent organization. The president of Nigeria must stay away from the activities of elections in Nigeria, most especially the FCT minister. Because you see, if we want to have a 2027 election that comes with robustness, education of voters must be paramount. This INEC chairman must partner with people like us, because you cannot be the referee in a game where you are a player.
Do you think the reforms that have just been signed in by Bola Ahmed Tinubu should have included voter education? And whose main responsibility should that have been? Should that be INEC's main responsibility? Like you mentioned from before, even pay media to educate the electorate. Now, is it too late to do all of that? We only have a timeline of 1 year before 2027 hits.
It's not too late. It's not too late. Even in 6 months, from now to 6 months, it can work out. But the truth is that INEC must understand that those funds are not supposed to be funds that are put in pockets, personal pockets. Those funds should be distributed to the TV stations, the radio stations, and to the NGOs like us that have direct access to the people. Who is going to listen to INEC? Nobody trusts INEC. So any information INEC is giving out is Bangladesh. We are the people that the Nigerians are waiting for. The Nigerian broadcast organizations, like this station, they will listen to you. So this chunk of this funds should be given to this station. This funds should be given to the CLOs, the civil society, to go out and talk to the people. Nobody will listen to INEC. Nobody trusts INEC because of their past activities, because of their past activities in the influence of rigging elections and the influence of creating litigations for our elections. That is what we're saying. Okay, this is the truth. We must face it clearly.
Umar Mohammed, what's your take?
Yeah, for us, we believe that sensitization and voter education should be a continuous thing. There is no time that is too late, and it is on that basis that KDI, in partnership with the Voter Education Department of INEC, is working together to review their voter education manual. That document is ready. We'll be launching it any moment soon. We decided to, move a bit further we looked at the INEC voter education manual. We discovered that it is a bit cumbersome, even for young people to be able to interact with. So we did a youth-friendly version, of that document. And that document will also be in public. It will also help, TV stations like you to also be able to put out, voter education information as youth-friendly as possible. You know that young people that we have these days have a very short attention span and interact with, information that are media, related, that have pictorial diagrams, and all that, not just text. Text would, they easily lose focus, when they see text. So that youth-friendly manual is so designed that it can captivate young people and get them interested, in voter education. And by the time that document is ready, it's something that you see. We believe that the National Orientation Agency is also not being empowered enough for whatever it is. INEC has a full-fledged, voter education department. But in terms of, reeling out, all the information that the people need to be able to be part of the process, we are not seeing them do that. We urge the government, no matter, they should try as much as possible to empower the National Orientation Agency, which responsibility it is, to sensitize the populace in terms of this, and take away, some of these responsibilities that are choking INEC, because they themselves even, say this, that they are loaded with all kind of responsibility, and they can't do all at once. So I would say, the bulk of this sensitization and voter education responsibility should be taken away from INEC and given to the National Orientation Agency, so that we have, an independent institution that we can hold to account, in terms of this issue. More so, the people who also need to, play a very pivotal role, when it comes to voter education. Voter education shouldn't be the responsibility of one institution alone. All hands must be on deck to drive, this ahead of 2027.
Umar Mohammed, I want to say thank you very much. Dr. Barry Johnson, thank you very much for this very healthy first 1 hour here for Breakfast Extra. We'll continue to watch and see what exactly happens or transpires today as the collations are rounding up and the results would be announced. Well, we hope for peace. We also hope that come next year, 2027 elections, there would be more participation across the country. But before that, more education. I do not know, well, for now, exactly who and how that is going to go. As we have said, maybe INEC should shift that responsibility to bodies that are independent, bodies that are credible for people to, well, maybe take advantage of. We continue to watch, we hope, and of course, we look forward to a better Nigeria, better electoral process. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to take a break here on Breakfast Extra, and we'll be back. We've got more. Stay with us.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Extra. This morning in the news, we begin with the FCT Area Council elections update, where the Independent National Electoral Commission has begun announcing results from the Area Council election across the Federal Capital Territory. Officials confirmed that a collation is ongoing and of course at designated centers, with some results already declared while others are still being processed. announcing the final results of the Abuja Municipal Area Council Chairmanship elections. INEC returning officer declared Christopher Maikalangu of the All Progressive Congress APC winner of the polls after securing 40,295 votes. His closest challenger, Dr. Paul Moses of the African Democratic Congress, also known as the ADC, polled 12,109 votes. In the meantime, there was tension and confusion at the Ward Collation Center in Garki, Abuja, as party agents clashed with officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission over the declaration of councillorship results in the area council elections. The incident occurred at Government Secondary School Garki, where party agents accused the electoral umpire of compromising transparency in the coalition process. While agents of the various political parties were allowed to verify and sign the results for the chairmanship elections, they were, however, denied the same opportunity for councillorship results. This development triggered heated exchange between party representatives and the returning officer, with aggrieved agents insisting that the process fell short of accountability, electoral standards, and ongoing council polls in the Federal Capital Territory. Our correspondent, Blessings Akibi, monitored the elections of the chairmanship and councillorship across the 6 area councils of the Federal Capital Territory: Abaji, Abuja, Municipal, Buari, Gwagwalada, Kuje, and Kwali. Now, with more than 1.6 million registered voters, residents turned out to cast their ballots in what many described as a crucial test of grassroots democracy in the national capital. She now reports.
From early morning, queues at polling units to the visible presence of security personnel, residents across Abuja Municipal, Buari, and Abaji area councils came out to decide who will lead their councils for the next 4 years. While many polling units recorded a peaceful voting process, some residents expressed frustration over their experiences.
I'm here to vote to whoever that God directs me to vote that will make our nation to be better.
We don't have any problem with the process, and they have arrived in time. So we are working alongside with the INEC official, security agencies, the other parties' agents, so that we can see how we work as a team for a successful processes.
I left the house for 6 o'clock to come down to this place. I didn't people come, but as they came, they started voting. I had to go and capture my vote. I find my number there, my picture there. But at the end, when they want to capture me, they say it didn't work. They send me to dance side. I go to dance side again. They want to capture, it didn't work. They say I should come up again. So I'm up now to check whether will capture me here. That's what brought me to this place. Now I never do anything. Since 6 o'clock I leave for house.
All I see in terms of inclusivity for persons with disability is the poster from EC30 EPWD, the poster for the deaf community. There's a possibility that any blind person or deaf person who comes to, or person with reduced vision comes here, might experience 1 or 2 challenges, except maybe they come with someone they trust to enable them.
The only problem we are having now is that some names are not in the paper that they place on the wall. So it's giving the talk time to be looking at person name because there is no serial number. So it takes very slow before you vote.
In a few locations, allegations emerged of attempt to disrupt the process, with some residents claiming ballot boxes were tampered with. Security agencies, however, maintained that adequate personnel were deployed to ensure a smooth and orderly exercise.
One of the polling units' boxes were snatched, and the other polling units, there were issues of stealing of ballot papers, which just a few minutes ago I heard that they returned the box that they snatched at one of the polling units in the southeast, but the masses rejected it because there's no way you snatch ballot box and return it safe.
Nobody can rig election without the permission of the people. It's either you have, an active permission or a passive permission. If you stay away from election, you don't come out to vote, you're passively giving them permission to rig the election.
In as much as we have deployed massively, across all the 2,822 polling units, we also still have our men on standby. We have the rapid response squad as well, so that in case there is any situation, it can be put under control as fast as possible.
Residents now await the outcome of an election many hope will bring responsive leadership closer to the people.
Now, still on the election matters, the New Nigeria People's Party and other opposition political parties were absent at the Kano Municipal and Ugogo State constituencies by-elections, which took place on Saturday. Low voter turnouts also marred the elections, with absence of agents as well as members of the People Democratic Party and the African Democratic Congress. Speaking to journalists in Kano, resident Electoral Commissioner Abdu Zango attributed the poor participation to the timing of the polls, which he said coincided with the holy month of Ramadan. He also emphasized that while some major opposition parties chose not to participate, INEC received no formal complaints.
We have not received any accusation or anything. That they are not participating is entirely the responsibility of the parties. We don't decide who participates. Whoever does primary, send his candidate, upload it, if you like, satisfied all the necessary guidelines as contained in the Electoral Act, is a candidate. First of all, I think the timing, maybe Ramadan. Second, I think the general feeling that this is a very small election involving only 2 candidates, very few parties, 9 contestants.
Now, in River State, low voter turnout was recorded in the by-election scheduled to fill vacant positions in the River State House of Assembly. The election was held in Awada East constituency and Kana constituency in Awada East and Kana local government area of the state. News Central's Biola Festus reported that several polling units remained without voters several hours after voting was supposed to have officially begun. At polling unit 9, Ward 8, officials say they were not provided with essential materials, including tables and chairs, delayed proper setup, while Ward 9, Unit 1, the polling center of the APC candidate, the BVAS, showed glitches leading to delays in the process.
It's a gradual thing. The officers who are manning the device, they complain of network issue. And of course, we know that we're in Nigeria. Network issue is something that you cannot predict. Network can be up now, in the next few seconds to be down. So far, I think they've restored it and it's working very well now.
So have you been... has it been able to recognize your face now?
Immediately I finish with you, I'm going back there to continue the process.
I want to celebrate because with what I'm seeing on ground here, the victory is ours. And I advise everyone, be gentle and kind, patient. The president, the government of President Ahmed Tinubu.
And outside of Nigeria, Libya's Prime Minister, Minister Abdulhamid Dbeibah, has undergone what officials describe as successful treatment at a herbal hospital. Authorities did not disclose the exact medical condition. The procedure was carried out in Misrata. He later traveled abroad for further medical checks linked to prior engagements. And Italian media and earlier reported that he visited a cardiac facility in Milan. Dbeibah leads the UN-recognized administration in Tripoli, which governs western Libya. The country remains divided, with the east controlled by a rival authority aligned with Caliph Haftar after years of political instability. That's all we bring you in the news this morning, but we go on a quick break, and when we return, bring you more right here on Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
You're welcome back. Second hour here for Breakfast Extra. Interesting conversation about to go. Sexual violence. Well, it remains a serious and deeply troubling issue in our society, with many girls and women affected by crimes that leave lasting physical and emotional, also psychological trauma. Now, in recent years, there have been growing calls for stronger protection for victims, faster investigation, and greater accountability for perpetrators. However, recent developments involving a social media personality have also brought attention to concerns about false rape accusations. Now, while that is a big conversation, and sexual violence still remains a grave reality that must be confronted. False accusations, when they occur, can also cause significant harm, damaging reputations and complicating the pursuit of justice. And this highlights the need for a system that protects victims, ensures accountability, and upholds fairness and due process.
This conversation goes beyond the headlines. It speaks to the kind of society we want to build, one where victims feel safe to speak, where justice is served, and where the truth is protected. It also raises important questions about the role of the law institutions and society in preventing abuse, supporting victims, and ensuring fair and thorough investigations.
Joining us this morning to help unpack these issues are Kabir Akingbolu, a legal practitioner with expertise in criminal justice, and we also are joined by Jane Ilu, a child advocate who works closely with vulnerable children and families to protect their rights and welfare.
Thank you both for joining us. I'll start with, how should we start with, Mazina?
Ladies first, they say.
Ladies first. Now, sexual violence cases appear to be rising in visibility and, of course, in reporting. From your professional perspective, how serious is the situation? And what patterns are we observing and seeing now?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, sexual abuse in Nigeria is not just the trending topic as we're seeing now. It's a national emergency that affects both children, affects families, and even countries themselves. So as a child advocate and someone who has been a victim herself, I've seen firsthand what abuse does to children, how it affects their self-esteem, it affects their confidence, it interrupts their education, and also it leaves long-lasting trauma that never goes away. Now, so if we're talking about rising incidents, now the question should really be, are cases increasing, or are people now finding the courage to come out to share the abuse or to tell their stories about sexual violence? Because a lot of persons do not report abuse, especially children, because they're afraid that they might not get the justice they need. And some are afraid because they're going to be judged and stigmatized. So we, as a country, should also look for ways to protect children, protect people, because it is not only children that suffer sexual abuse. Both men, women, young and old do suffer sexual abuse. Now it is left for us to put in places safe spaces that allow people to come out to share their stories or report abuse. It is left for us to put in places proper investigations, proper teams that can investigate these cases, and also to put places that can also support psychological healing for these victims. Because sexual abuse does not just affect a person, it affects the entire country as a whole.
Jane, thank you very much. Mr. Kabir, let's come to you now. Now, you've noted what she has said. These cases seem to be, perhaps, maybe they are being reported more often now. Now, from your experience, from a legal point of view, are you experiencing a spike in the amount of people who are bold enough to come out and talk about their experience when it comes to sexual violence?
Well, if you ask me, there is no spike. Sexual abuse has always been there, and people have been committing these atrocities for ages, from time immemorial. Unfortunately, people are afraid to report incidences of rape or sexual abuses and the likes and harassment, whether in workplace. It has been in workplace, in schools, in tertiary institutions, even in primary and the rest of them. It happens everywhere. There's workplace harassment, there's sexual harassment in schools, there is sexual harassment in homes, there are family relation harassment. there's social gathering harassment, there is trust harassment. Some of these harassment come out of this. Maybe you have trusted somebody so much, then some of these things arise or arose out of carelessness of the parents. However, is it that the question needs to be asked, is it that there is spike, or is it that people are more enlightened now? I think the emergence of social media has helped in the fight against this harassment, or in the people coming out to come and say, oh, this is what happened to me, the enlightenment, the education, and so on and so forth, the information that are not restricted. However, over the years, in criminology, there's what we call victimless offenses. There's what we call victimless offense. Rape is one of the victimless offenses that we have. Now, in rape, the people rape, nobody complains. You understand? It happens every day. It does not mean that it was not happening, that's why there are no victims or there are no complainants. But because people are afraid of that stigmatization that is attached, that shame that is attached with that act, so they keep quiet, they don't talk at times. And again, the way society looks at some of these things makes it to be difficult. But over time, people are coming out to talk. That is why you see it's looking as if there is a spike in the number of rape cases. However, we need, virile legal tools, legal machineries, or ways or procedures to bring the victims or the perpetrators of this heinous crime to justice or to book. However, some states have gone in the lead. Places like Ekiti State, they have gone ahead. Lagos State have gone ahead. They have a shame register where they register, sexual offenders. They put their name there, and it is displayed everywhere that this person is a sexual offender. This is what is done and all that. And I think the punishment there is life imprisonment, which is, enough detraction. However, the security agents, they have a lot of roles to play here. Because as a legal practitioner myself, I know that out of every 10 rape cases, about 8 to 9 will fail. They will not be able to sustain conviction because of poor investigation and bad prosecution. So if the investigation is not properly done, you cannot secure any conviction.
Okay, go ahead, Inam, please.
I'm curious to know, I think some of the questions, I had a few questions and you answered them, which I think for me was brilliant. So it's safe to say there is what you call a shame register which is for sex offenders, and then there's life imprisonment. Those were the two things that I wanted to find out. Now, you mentioned there that 8 out of 10, you tend to perhaps get convictions or no convictions. I don't remember what you said. But my question is, the evidence that substantiates it, can you enlighten me from a law standpoint, what exactly is surmountable evidence that leads to a conviction in situations like this?
Yes, rape is one of the offenses that needs corroboration as a matter of law. There is corroboration as a matter of practice, there is corroboration as a matter of law, but as a corroboration as a matter of law and as a matter of practice, there is corroboration in law of rape. You must be able to say, oh, he raped me. The court will be interested in seeing other evidence out of your testimony. You have come out to say, oh, this man raped me. Now, the judge or the court is interested in knowing whether there is a neighbor who witnessed who heard you shouting, or who could see you when that thing happened, or whether you reported to somebody immediately thereafter, or whether you just kept quiet. Where there are no corroborative evidence and there is no strong and compelling and convincing evidence enough, the offender is going to go scot-free. This is the problem we have with offenses of rape. Because the experience has also taught that sometimes people are taught to lie against someone in order to implicate him, in order to criminalize him. Whether it's it's your boss in the office that insists on strictness or in performance of duties according to law without bending rules. You to set him up. Whether you're a lecturer, whether you are not doing well in the subject, you may want to set him up. Or whether some people don't like the face of certain persons, they may use you to set him up. You understand? That is why we are seeing high places where people raise allegation of rape against their bosses or principals or colleagues. At the end of the day, they withdraw the case from court and you begin to doubt it. So the law requires corroboration. There is a particular case where one man was arrested and charged to court I'm trying to let you know what corroboration means. He was charged to court for raping a particular person. There was no corroboration direct. Now the lady gave evidence that, oh, the victim gave evidence, he raped me and so on and so forth. And there was nobody who could be there to say anything. But a neighbor came to give evidence that the lady used to sell banana. But on leaving, that man called him to buy banana, and on leaving his premises, she saw the lady with a gloomy face. And the court, concluded that somebody you have bought banana with will be happy ordinarily. So if he's living with a gloomy face and so sad, then it means it's possible that man has really raped him. And the court agreed that there's a corroborative evidence to convict the man.
Mr. Kabir, sorry. It sounds a little bit, for the lack of a better word. No, not confusing. A little bit of an elementary argument, if I can say so respectfully. And I say this because, are you basically telling me, and I'm saying this because we will then get to the false accusations, right? It sounds a bit, there are so many gray areas in the way in which we implicate a sex offender, especially if you are telling me that the conviction lies primarily on someone being an eyewitness. Can I ask and say, as we are right now in Nigeria, have we not gotten to the point where scientifically it can be proven if a person was raped or not? Because if we are relying solely on a corroboration, then there would still be a very, very big gap and problem in how we substantiate if a person is guilty of the crime or not. I'm asking this, for instance, things like rape kits, things that need to be assessed from a scientific dimension that proves if a person is guilty or not. Do we have those in Nigeria right now?
We have it from time immemorial. In fact, as a matter of when I talk of corroboration, that is one instance. It does not necessarily mean it must be an eyewitness corroboration. It may be some material part, for instance, where you can get the, the undies of the ladies involved, that you can see that, oh, it was torn, and then you can get laceration, a picture of laceration on the body of the lady or of the man. Those things can be taken. You get medical report that shows. But some of the time, the medical practitioners may not go deep to examine this. I have seen a particular case when that man was
Mr. Kabir, before you give that example, Mr. Kabir, my apologies, before you give that example, we also have Jane who would like to ask specific questions here. Now, let's also remember that just from last week, there was the case of Mirabel, the girl who came out to tell that she was raped. However, it's been found out that it was all a lie. Now, the implications there are two victims on this side. Sometimes the victim is actually a person who has been raped. Other times the victims might be people who are being falsely accused. So, Jane, we are seeing this dimension here now, taking away the stigma where people are no longer ashamed to tell that these things have happened to them. Instead, people are now boldly telling, not just boldly telling, but also, well, being mendacious in whatever it is they're saying. They're not telling the truth. How do you see this? How do you balance this dimension that we're seeing currently, Jane?
Okay, first of all, it's pretty amazing that people can finally boldly tell their stories, because in the past, like I said, there are a lot of people have been ashamed of coming out to mention that they've been sexually abused. An example is myself seated here. And then recently, due to social media visibility and awareness, so a lot of people tend to come out now to share their stories. And now, from the recent incidents that occurred where someone actually gave a false story or false accusation of being sexually abused, and I see a lot of people, including influencers, coming out to say majority of the time women are not sexually abused, but they just come out to cook up stories and then to accuse people, probably people they don't like. But I want to say this. Majority of the time, sexual abuse reports are not false. Yes, there are incidences where they've been false accusations. Yes, and Nigeria does not have the statistics or number of abuses that are false. Yet they do happen, but I've not really seen statistics that says this is the particular number of cases that have been reported that are false. But global data has it that at least 2 to 10% of cases that have been reported have later came out to be false. But this does not erase the fact that the number that is less shouldn't overshadow the one that is higher, because this will make some people to come out and say, okay, someone came out to say I was sexually abused. Are you sure? Is it true? Then the solution to this now would be that, okay, there are already legal ways or methods put in place to tackle sexual abuse. But then the question is that of implementation. Are these laws being implemented correctly? Are they being implemented when there's when a case comes or when someone comes to report a case? Do the law enforcers actually come out?
Jane, let me help you there for a second. Jane, let me help you there for a second. Do people trust the system enough to say, yes, I will go out and report? I want us to use a practical sample here. Now, you just noted that you are a person, you've experienced this yourself. I want you to talk us through the experience of actually, well, not the actual experience, but the experience of being someone who's a survivor in a society where these kinds of instances are stigmatized. Hearing the story of Mirabel, from when you heard it, from when it was believable to when it fell apart to being a, prevarication, tell us what you, as a survivor, felt in those instances through the entire process of that story making social media rounds.
Okay, as a survivor, I've really seen a lot of cases. I've seen a lot of things, so I no longer make judgment impulsively. I no longer see stories, or when people come out to share their stories, I no longer just attach empathy or emotions to it before making the decisions. Yes, when she came out to share her story, it was believable. People actually accepted that, okay, something like this happened to this person. But then it turned out to be lies. And this has a lot of effect on millions of other people who will be willing to come out to share their stories, because they won't be believed. A lot of them, they don't have evidence to show that, okay, this happened to me. Because someone who was desperate has already weakened that trust that people, because majority of the time, society actually attaches emotion and empathy to cases like this. And now it is worse because someone has actually made it seem like victims are lying. And it's really going to have a lot of effects on millions of people who are willing to come out to tell their stories.
Now, Doctor, let me come to you from a legal practitioner and a standpoint. What's your take on this situation, of course, and the fabricated accusations against the gentleman with regards to rape? And secondly, are there any implications for falsely accusing someone of rape?
Yes, you can be charged for giving false, false information to police. You understand? So if that is the case, then the law will take its course, and I will expect the police or the law enforcement agents to do something in this particular case so that the person who has come out to lie should be, made to face the wrath of the law, so that it can discourage others from doing such a thing to just come out and implicate people for no just reason, so that it will not have impact on the people who may justly have a reasonable ground or who have been actually harassed or raped. So this will go a long way. But if nothing is done to this particular case, if the victim or the person who lied is not made to face the wrath of the law, it's going to have a very serious, impact negatively, just like Jane has said there. It is just the truth of the matter. However, some of these things, there are a lot of different types of laws. There's defilement of idiots, like all these mad people, those who sleep with them, there's a different law. If you defilement of minor, you have to, these two cases, there must be corroboration and they must be prosecuted within 1 year. If it is not done within 1 year, the criminal or the suspect has escaped justice forever. So there are a lot of issues if we go deeper.
Jane, regarding this instance, how have organizations attended to it? We've heard social media, and it's been very loud. Individuals giving their own takes, people themselves being victimized for taking sides. But what about the NGOs? What about the systems that are in place to help victims, or maybe instances to look into these instances? How have they reacted so far? Are you a member of any of these, and what are your plans?
Okay, well, just like it's usually done, when cases are reported like this, many NGOs tend to request for evidence, or immediately a case is reported, maybe it happens between 24 to 73 hours, the person will be taken to the clinic to get samples to be used as evidence. So I believe that organizations don't just apply empathy, like I said, or emotions to cases like this. So they also request for evidence so that people are not falsely accused, just like it happened now. Although we still know that the majority of cases reported are usually true. So we do all we can, and other organizations do all they can to ensure that justice is served for both the vulnerable, for the accused, and also the victims, and not just focusing on the victim alone.
Well, Jane, would like to say thank you very much for being bold enough not just to keep your experience to yourself, but actually to be one of the few people who comes out to do something about it, have a movement about it, and help people who might be in such instances. Thank you very much for all the efforts you've put, regardless of the experience that you have had. And Barrister Cabero, thank you very much for giving us the legal background to the instances here. We'll look forward to having you back inside of Lagos with your people. Leave our Abuja people alone. Come back to us here. We like having you live in the studio while we say hi to everybody in the Abuja studios. Gentleman, lady, thank you very much for being with us on this conversation.
It's a pleasure.
Now, sexual violence is a crime that leaves deep and lasting scars, not just to the individuals, but on families and communities. And while we must continue to advocate strongly for the protection of victims and accountability for offenders, it is equally important that justice remains rooted in evidence, in fairness, and in due processes. A safer society requires both compassion and truth. We go on a quick break now, but when we return, we're not done yet. We bring you more on Breakfast Extra.
Welcome back. Still Breakfast Extra here. It's Mazzino and Inam. Now, the people of the Federal Capital Territory have spoken as residents across the 6 area councils participated in an election widely seen as a critical test of grassroots democracy. From vote turnout to the conduct of officials and the transparency of the collation process, attention is now focused on whether the election met the standards of credibility and accountability expected by Nigerians. Local government elections are often described as the closest form of governance to the people, and their credibility plays a major role in shaping public trust in the broader democratic system. Questions are now being asked about how smooth the process went, how transparent the collation has been, and what this means for future elections under the supervision of the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Now, joining us to examine the conduct, credibility, and accountability of the FCT area council elections or we have one guest.
Yes, indeed. We have Charles Pius, our correspondent from Abuja, who's joining us now to tell us about his experience as he observed the elections from yesterday. Charles, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Please do tell us what you recorded, what you saw, what you experienced during the elections from Abuja yesterday.
Thank you so much, Zino. And I mean, the elections yesterday, it's anything to go by. You could say it's fairly okay. I mean, but fairly okay. I believe it's not something that Nigerians want. They would want a situation where everything is laid on the plate. So much so that when you lose an election, you lose with some sort of gallantry. If you lose, it's fine that you lose and you try again tomorrow, not a situation where, somebody's trying to play hanky-panky. In one of the collation centers that I was at, that's the Area 10 Gariki, Abuja, there was collation, that's the ward collation. the ward collation. In that center, the chairmanship was being collated, and of course, the councillorship. The councillorship is to be announced at that center, but the chairmanship is to be sent to Cairo. So I noticed that at the time that the resident electoral commissioner finished the chairmanship collation, he allowed the party agent to sign their documents. He also allowed them to verify, and then even gave them a copy of the document, even allowed them to snap it, more like take your defeat from that ward, because at that ward, at that time, the chairmanship was actually won by the APC. So they were all good. But coming to the councillorship, at the time where it was being announced, because of course at that particular level, that is where the councillorship is being announced. I noticed that the system changed a little bit. Instead of actually allowing the party agents to view the results, to sign up on it, I noticed that the guy just started, the INEC official started reeling the results. And the party agents there said that this is not what just happened a few minutes ago. We just finished the chairmanship collation, and the process is let's verify it from polling units, and then you can now reel out whatever you want. You can now send it to the next level. But for the councillorship, the guy did not give it to them. He didn't give them to verify it. He just reeled it out to the press. And then that altercation ensued. We had the party agents of the PDP screaming. I shared a video with you earlier, and it almost dovetailed into chaos. Even the police couldn't even contain what was going on. They needed to leave that scene and to also guide the INEC official to leave the venue and then off to the location where the chairmanship is being collated. That's at Cairo. At the time when we arrived at Cairo, I asked the INEC official why they changed the process. He said that, look, nobody questions him. He needed to do what he needed to do at the time because it was past midnight and everyone was tired and he needed to just do it. And I said, but these people actually screamed even before you started. They told you, look, this is not the style. This is not the process. Why are you changing it right in their own eyes? And, he had no questions. He had no answers to those questions. And it's quite terrible. And I can only imagine what those officials, the party agents, went home with, with broken heart and with a mind filled with sadness. And this is also one of the reasons why Nigerians are saying, we don't want anyone tampering with our results. Mm-hmm. At that particular collation, anything would have happened. I mean, it's human writing papers. I mean, mm-hmm. I also shared the pictures with you.
Charles,
yeah.
Now, we got those pictures and videos. We also got a couple of results from AMAC, from Buhari, from Gwagwalada, and also Kwali. I'm going to wait for confirmation before I announce or tell those numbers. However, I wanted to know, between the parties that seemed to have won or not won, what were the reactions from maybe supporters who were about you?
Yeah, they were really angry. They were saddened. They were not taking it. I mean, you could see from what the videos I shared, there were the ABGA party agent, there were PDP party agents. Okay. There were also other party agents who were there raising their voices about the fact that INEC had cheated them.
Let's take a specific instance, Charles. A specific instance of AMAC, where APC got 40,000 plus, and the ADC got 12,100, and PDP 3,000 just. What exactly were the reactions from the supporters of these parties? Was it so? Did they feel that the elections were credible, were transparent? What transpired between people or within the different parties here involved?
Okay, so at the time that the elections were being announced, it was around 4 a.m., around 3:30 to 4 a.m. about earlier this morning. That was when that particular elections were held. And I looked out for all of the party agents, and I didn't see any of them. But earlier, I had checked out on major social media platforms, Dino Melaye and a personal assistant to Peter Obi. They had put out content. In fact, the personal assistant to Peter Obi actually stated that elections have been won by the ADC, but that they have refused to reel out the result. INEC and, the powers that be have refused to reel out the result. Dino had even put out numbers attached to the AMAC election, saying that ADC had won with over 4,000. But I mean, it wasn't actually the right thing. It's just basically anger, being overstressed, and it was just unfortunate that they had to put out those content. But with what we saw and with how the conduct was done, from the wards up until the chairmanship declaration at Karu site where we were, there was nothing of such in terms of irregularities that happened. But again, people would be sad that they lost an election. They would like to draw on anything or hold on anything as a reason why they lost.
Charles, let's zoom out now. We just talked about AMAC, which is more or less the more urban and more educated areas of Abuja. Let's go down to Gwagwalada, where we find a different kind of result here, where we had 22,000 plus, and this time it was the PDP who took this home, Mohammed Kashim. The APC came in second with almost 18,000, that's 17,788, and the ADC came in at just 1,366. So here we see a very interesting dynamic here, where AMAC was taken by the APC, and Gwagwalada, which is a more rural settlement, was taken by the PDP. I'm wondering what factors are responsible for the choice of voters here, APC versus the PDP. Do you have any idea?
Gwagwalada is not necessarily a rural in terms of elitist.
Yeah, I get you, but compared to AMAC, you would find most of the rural settlements within the Gwagwalada councils.
Absolutely. It's a university environment. I mean, you have the University of Abuja situated there, and also other high institutions around there. You have lecturers, you have students who are also very much knowledgeable about political situations in their localities. I think what may have played out in Gwagwalada is the PDP candidates zooming in on those students, and of course zooming in on some of the lecturers and asking them that, look, if we need to go further in our locality, then we have to actually check in on our due.
We seem to have network issues with our connection there with Charles. But let's run through the results. Let's start from AMAC all the way from the front, from the beginning again. And we're going to put those graphics up on your screen there. You can see AMAC chairmanship seats. Winner Christopher Maikalangu, APC, that's 40,295, and the ADC came second with 12,109, and the PDP right after with just 3,398. We also have that for Buari. You want to help me out there, Inam, with the Buari and Gwagwalada results. We also have Kwali after that, but go ahead.
Right, so in the Buari area, we've got the APC with 18,466. The winner there being Joshua Ishaku. Followed by that, we've got the ADC with a 4,254 tally. And then we've got the ZLP, which accumulated about 3,515 votes in totality.
I'm very curious about the ZLP. I'm very interested in seeing what their efforts were from before the elections. Not a big party, but, well, they made 3,000 plus.
They did something,
which counts
right?
for something, yes, exactly.
Yeah. As you know, from there we moved to Gwagwalada, which of course our correspondent did confirm that it's more university lecturers and of course a bit of informal settlements as well.
I'll say something about that after you tell them.
All right. So the winner there of course was Mohammed Kasim from the PDP with a whopping 22,165 votes. And then followed by that we've got the APC, which is at 17,788. And then finally, we've got the ADC that stood at 1,366.
I am not going to disagree with Charles. The Gwagwalada actually does house the biggest institution in Abuja, which is, I can't remember.
University of Abuja.
University of Abuja. I forgot. You lived in Abuja, so you know this. But I would like to think that that is not a very big influence when it comes to the
and
results.
I agree.
Because the university is just a small part of the entire numbers of different townships and villages that Gwagwalada contains. And this, for me, is where you would have you'd have the biggest need for voter education. Now, you do have educated vote electorates there, and I'm talking about the university, the students, the lecturers, and all. Very aware people who you can actually count on when it comes to conversations, political conversations. But then you have a bigger mass of people who are the suburban dwellers and also the rural dwellers who need this voter education. And tell you what, that's where most people will tell you that you could find instances of vote buying and all, because they take advantage of the lack of awareness of the people. So the Gwagwalada, I'm very interested in seeing how exactly it became the PDP's win here with 22,165. I also want to see how many registered voters came out, how many registered voters did not come out. I think those are little details that will tell you or point a finger in the direction of the factors that led to this. It's a good one for the opposition, the PDP, because most people thought they were down and out, but to see them take Gwagwalada, which is a measurably big part of the FCT, is an interesting dynamic.
I agree.
What other results do we have?
We've got Kwali.
Okay.
Are the Kwali ones ready?
Yes.
So for Kwali, of course, the winner there was Daniel Nuhu from the APC with 17,032 votes. And then followed by that was the PDP with 8,575. And then, of course, we've got the ADC sitting at 3,225.
There's
so
a
again,
big,
an interesting one.
Yeah, there's a big hole, a big gap here, and one has to wonder what would have happened if you had the LP in there.
Yep.
If you want to argue the case of Gwagwalada, then you have to argue the case of LP. The fact that they were not inside, they were not included in these elections, not because they were disenfranchised or anything, but because of the internal and procedural issues that could not be accomplished before the elections. But the LP in 2023 were a big movement. They were not just a big movement, but they were a big youth movement. Them being absent, or even with the seeming lackadaisical nature with which they approached the elections, with their internal wranglings and all, you have to ask whether the LP, for the Abuja instance, was an advocacy party, you know, a youth advocacy party, or whether it actually has strong grassroots orientation.
I mean, I do agree that in 2023, it could have been, and it was the youth movement, kind of like Julius Malema in the EFF. It stood for something, and it stood for hope, not necessarily for our forefathers, but it stood for hope for...
New hope.
Yes, new hope for the younger generation. And I think one thing that stood out for the LP, which I'll say boldly because it was based on my own observation, was that Peter Obi was a contender, especially for the younger youth, the new hope that you spoke about. So I think to have him move from that kind of, you know, made them now, it was a questionable thing, especially to the younger people that were like, well, but this is the face of the future for us. So for him not to be there, I think kind of shifted goes back to the hope deferred scenario that I made earlier, yeah.
Well, did this disenfranchise youths totally is another question. I'm waiting for an expert to actually tell us on that one, because the youth seem very tired of the current situation of things, where you have that situation in Uganda where it's still the same president there for the past 40 years. Here in Nigeria, whether you like it or not, it would seem like you still have the same people running the elections, running the parties. Everybody's just simply, I mean, look at the rate at which you had defections before the election. It didn't seem like it was ideology at the end of the day. It was simply just survival. If I didn't make it in this party, oh, where's the next step? Let's go to the APC. And of course, they were all welcome. I'm curious
to find out, Mazino. Based on the numbers that we saw in 2023 in terms of the high voter turnout, because it was quite a massive number, was that the highest number recorded?
Oh, no, it wasn't. From previous elections, 2000, what was that, the Buhari period, it was much higher. You've seen a considerable reduction in the number of voters coming out each election. But we're out of time. I'm sure we have plenty of time inside of the next 1 hour to have this conversation, and it will pop up as we continue to monitor the elections results and also talk to our correspondents in Abuja. Let's take a quick break. We have another conversation coming your way in the next hour. We'll be back. Welcome back. It's the final hour for Breakfast Extra here, Mazino and Inem. Now, Nigeria has always been home to incredible talents and also creativity. But in recent years, we've seen our people push the boundaries in ways that make the world take notice, from athletes and performers to innovators and also artists. Nigerians are breaking records, redefining limits, and also leaving an indelible mark on the global stage. Today, we focus on the extraordinary feats of two Nigerians whose achievements highlight both passion and also perseverance. These individuals who dedicate themselves not just to personal glory, but to inspiring others, to showcasing culture and also proving that with discipline, imagination, and resilience, the impossible can become reality. Whether it's staying awake and performing non-stop for 50 hours or crafting the longest documentary film ever made, their journeys offer lessons in patience, dedication, and the power of chasing your dreams to, well, the length of no matter what.
Now, to help us understand the mindset, the preparation, and the vision board behind record-breaking feats, we're joined by two extraordinary Nigerians, the famous Isaacs and a documentary filmmaker and a culture advocate is pushing the limits of storytelling and attempting the longest documentary film, capturing culture, inspiration, and human achievements on a scale never seen before. And of course, Fado the Great, a Guinness World Record holder, magician, is famed for 50-hour magic marathon, a record that demonstrates endurance, creativity, and relentless determination to inspire awe and push boundaries. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for joining us. Famous, when she introduced you, when she said the famous Isaac, I'm like, the famous Isaac who? But then again, it's your name, famous. Famous, good to have you. And Fado, I'm wondering how many magic tricks you had to perform for 50 hours non-stop. So let's start there. How did you achieve this fit? How did you get the world's attention? What inspired it and what has come of it? A lot of questions there, I know.
Okay, so let me start from the number of tricks that was performed during the record. Unique tricks, unique individual tricks, we prepared over 250 tricks. However, we prepared these tricks because we did not want to break the rule where you cannot, repeat a trick within 4 hours. But along the span of 50 hours, we performed over 1,200 tricks, which is a lot of tricks.
Wow.
Then a lot of tricks. Then the inspiration for this was, for me, for many Nigerians, Nigeria is the hub of entertainment. We lead in every major sector. And magic is also a major sector in the global space. However, in Nigeria, it seems non-existent. But we have a lot of magicians here, a lot of people that can do, amazing things. So I wanted to make a statement, not just for me, but for every magician and for Nigeria as well, that we can also develop this side of the industry. 30 December is 18, for example. We have a lot of comedy shows, music shows. There could be a great addition of magic into the mix of every entertainment that is going on within the country. So that was one of the biggest inspirations for wanting to attempt the record. Not just, putting magic on the map, putting Nigeria entertainment scene on the map as well.
Fado, I'll commend you on this because there's a uniqueness around you doing the magic tricks, especially, like you said, it's a global thing, but it's a little bit, or very untapped in Africa. So I think I'd like to know from you what inspired you to attempt a Guinness World Record in this, regard, and was it more about breaking the record, or was it about more awareness into the magic around?
Or did you get paid for it? How much did you get from the record? I don't know.
No. No. For a lot of people that attempt record, it's not about the money. So it was majorly about the awareness that attempting a Guinness World Record can create. And that was the major reason why we attempted that, because we were looking, what can we do to make a major impact in the country that will get a lot of people. Now a lot of people are talking about it. Now a lot of people are aware that we have magicians. Now with the record, I'm getting to share the news to people that I am not just the only magician. We have a lot of other magicians. And so I think us doing the record, achieving it and getting the confirmation from them is also helping to create the awareness. But it does not just stop at awareness. We want it to be an industry, and for that to happen, we need to have a community around it. We need to have a community of people that would love to watch this live. We need to have a community of other people that will be interested in learning, just grow the industry. We need to start having magic series specials on their TV stations. And we have a lot of magicians that can make this happen.
Fado, you know how Nigerians feel about magic before they start calling you winch now. But famous. Famous, let's come back. Let's come to you first time on the segment. Now, Famous, you're attempting something very unique. It's the longest documentary for culture. I suppose that this culture is going to be about Nigerian. What do you intend to achieve with this, apart from capturing the eyes of the world? What else do you expect to achieve with this longest documentary?
So there are several things on my list, but the biggest of them, because for me, this is not about the Guinness World Record. The record itself is I think is the least thing that I have on the scale of important things that I'm looking forward to. It's really not the most important thing. What is really important for me is that we are taking advantage of the platform, the global platform of the Guinness World Record, to give popularity, to give recognition, to give identity and representation to our ethnic groups, to our cultures, to our traditions in Africa, in Nigeria. Not just that, this is going to be the one time we get to do something, to get to hear stories from people who are custodians of the culture, talking about their own cultures, for the benefit of both the present and the future, especially for the future, because now we're having children who know nothing about our languages from back home, and in future we are going to have more of those. We are going to have children who do not know our cultures, have children who will not even know where we come from. But if those children in future get to have a place where they can always get to learn about accurate stories about their ethnic groups, their cultures, this is going to be the one place, and that's what we're really about.
That's a very noble effort. I want to know, however, definitively, what exactly would you be showing inside of this documentary, inside of this film? What should we look forward to? Is it the people, the faces, the language? What exactly? I'll tell you why I'm excited about this, because personally, I'm an advocate for Nigeria. And I always tell people, you don't know so much about Nigeria because you haven't been, even if you live here. So I'm very excited that you're about to put our culture on the map, where it should have been, where it should be. But what mechanism do you intend to use?
Okay, so there are several places that this goes to. First of all, we are documenting culture. We are documenting history. So each of these ethnic groups have historical origins. Over the years, the problem we have had is a situation where people who neither came from a culture nor know enough about the culture start writing books and stories about that culture. And what results in that is misrepresentation. You have, like, I'm from Edo State. I'm from Esan ethnic group in Edo State. I have been to Yoruba land. I don't know so much about Yoruba culture. But imagine I get to visit Yoruba land in 1 week, and I come back to my state and I start writing a book. This is how Yoruba culture is. I would end up misrepresenting those people. But if I'm so interested in showing a Yoruba story, the rightful thing for me to do is to get to Yoruba land and get Yoruba people who have the authority to talk about, to share stories in a way, because they know much about the culture. They should be the ones to talk about the culture, which is what the approach that we're employing in this. So I'm going around 51 ethnic groups in Nigeria. We are getting to communicate with the people who are custodians of the culture, which is the kings or the people that the king is going to assign, maybe the chiefs or whoever it is that the king trusts enough to know about the culture. Get them to share stories from historical, talk about their history, talk about their traditions, talk about their culture, talk about their do's and don'ts. Basically everything. Talk about their food, their music, the things they do for money, economy, whether it's farming, agriculture, whatever it is. They talk about those. And for each of these ethnic groups, they're having a 2-hour feature. It's really important also to mention that each of these stories, because each of these ethnic groups have their own very unique, as traditions are very unique, so is language. So we are ensuring that the stories are being shared using the local language, the vernacular of these ethnic groups. So the Esan ethnic group is going to share, is going to be documented using Esan language, and then for the global community to be translated, I think subtitled to English, so that every other person can participate in the story, right, when the film is being premiered. So the language is going to be represented. We're also ensuring that whoever is sharing the story is going to be putting on the traditional attire of that particular ethnic group. So an attire that represents the people. right? So those ones are two things. Just within the week, I started. It occurred to me that music is a very essential part of documentary, of in fact any movie, anything, any audio visual. And so we have now made plans that for each one of these ethnic groups, we are going to make sure that the sound that we use is going to be sound that represents the people. So we are not getting sounds from the internet. We're making sure that the sound that we are going to use, background sound, whatever kind of sound we are going to use when a particular ethnic group is being documented or is being premiered, the background sound you're going to hear is going to be the traditional sound that represents that people. So we have like an all-round representation of the people in a way that's going to really make people all over the world get to know, okay, these people exist, this culture exists, and these are the very beautiful things about them.
Famous, thank you so much. I mean, again, I really, really commend you for putting this together, especially as a, like you said, I think breaking the record is just a platform for you to showcase what it is to really be Nigerian. I'm, like Mazino had mentioned, I really advocate for Africans telling the African story. And for me, I think that's the excitement around this. But a question that I'd like to ask you is in terms of execution and overall implementation, how do you intend to do this? Do you have some partners that you are or you have engaged for the delivery? And I say this because if we are saying that we want to put out African stories for the world to hear, the packaging and altogether editing and finishing of this is also quite critical and crucial for us to gain the necessary traction and attention. So in terms of partnership and overall delivery, can you give us a bit of insight with that?
All right, so as of today, we do have some partners. Global partner, we have UNESCO supporting the project. We've got NTA also supporting. We've also been able to get some support, endorsement from the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and the Creative Economy. And we're looking forward to some more coming, possibly from MTN, from companies.
Okay, we get that.
Yeah. But of that, for the editing, we're really relying on the support of our team. In our team right now, we do have a number of video editors who have volunteered to come on board on the project and make sure that we're able to see this to the end. So when we are done with the filming, these ones are going to be the people who are going to edit. And we want to be able to make sure that we edit in record time, which means that we're going to need to onboard a number of editors. I mean, this is a 102-hour-long film. Each ethnic group is getting a 2-hour feature. Local languages that some of these editors don't understand. So there's going to be need for a lot of conversations back and forth with the communities, making sure that the translation really reflect the subtitling to English really reflect the thoughts that is expressed in the local language. So yes, a number of editors are actually on board with us as well. Safe to say, they are also partners.
Yes. That's great.
Well, Famous, I'm going to come back and ask you a question about intercultural translations when it comes to these methods and mechanisms that you're using, as we are putting this not just for a Nigerian audience, but also for an international audience. But Fadu, let's come to you. You've been through this. You've got a record. Walk us through exactly how the process was or how the process is to getting a Guinness Book World Record. What do you have to do? Is there any money involved, whether from you or to you?
The creative process or the work we had to do into achieving this record is actually a lot, because getting 250 tricks, that's a lot. And these tricks were made here in Nigeria. So step one was having to buy and consume over 500 lectures. So when I say lectures, you're buying lectures from experienced magicians who have been doing it for maybe 30 years and are willing to share some of their repertoires of tricks. And they then explain to you how these things can be built. Then you can take your own creativity and add your spice into it. And I did that consuming over 500 lectures, which took about over 4 months. Then stage 2 was now building these props. And a lot of money went into building all the props that we used. And that took us another about 5 months. Stage 3 was you now need to practice and script this record, because at the end of the day, magic is a performing art. You are presenting this script in a way that makes it special to whoever is watching you. So we had to now go into the practice phase. That took another 3 to 4 months perfecting all the tricks. Obviously, it continued after this 3 months. But why I'm saying 3 months is after the first 3 months, we did our first test run, did about 16 hours. Then we did another test run of about 15 hours. And we did the final test run 2 or 3 weeks to the event. So a lot of work went into it because, you know, if this is a lot of people's first contact to the art form, you need it to be presented well. And, you know, there was physical training of over a year that went into the entire process as well. So I would say there was a lot of work and a lot of money that was, you know, put into making sure that everything was ready for the Guinness World Record.
And when you got the record, tell us about the wait, the anticipation, and the final moment when you actually did get the record, and what that means for a person to get a record. Are you simply just getting a plaque? Does that do anything for you, reputation-wise? Where can you take that to the bank?
So the feeling of getting the record, I'll start from there. I was shocked, I was grateful, I was happy. It's a combination of emotion because we are in a country where, you know, a lot of records have been happening lately and a lot of people have been getting disqualified, which is sad because a lot of people put in work into this record. So even though we knew, my team and I, we knew we did our best, you know, there's just this possibility that this is 50 hours. We can easily say, oh, at 20-something minutes and 20-something hours, something happened. So getting the confirmation that we got it, I was super grateful. Then in terms of, you know, now there's a level of expectation from not just Nigeria, even the global magic community, from a world record magician. A lot of people are already expecting, oh, what's next? You know, a show, are you doing a show? Are you doing a tour? How can you bring this closer to us? So now is the time to put in the work to actually now bring the industry part of magic to the world, because it's more than just performing. You know, you have to, how can we perform and let it get to millions of people at the same time? So there's a lot of things in plan and a lot of expectation that we plan to make, and we're already putting the work to get there.
Is there monetary reward to getting a Guinness World Record?
I believe.
No, there's no monetary reward. You just get the plaque and that's just
Inam raised her eyebrows. Inam raised her eyebrows. Inam, why did you raise your eyebrow?
Because actually I thought that there was. And I think it's very good that you actually enlightened us on this because, you know, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that a lot of people have been attempting to break records in Nigeria, to say the least. I know that it was trending at one point where they said there should literally just be a Guinness Book of World Records primarily just for Nigerians, right? But let's talk about that. And I'll say this because I do know a few Nigerians that have attempted and broke records that were notable records, Mazino, not just, you know, I mean, everyone has got their own creativity. We've got the longest canva of a neurodivergent kid. I think his name was Kanye Yachuku. We've got Tunde Onukoya for the chess and slums. We've got Hilda We've got Hilda Bashi as well. It was the longest cookathon, and I think she also now attempted and broke another one of the biggest bowl or biggest pot of jollof rice. What's your take on that? Does that motivate you, or does it make you feel like another statistic in the book to say, well, here's another Nigerian attempting to break a record? And
I'd like Famous to be the one to answer that, because he's going for the record now. You know, so tell us, are you just adding to the number of people who have just been making records? What does it feel like? What's your take?
I'm just adding. Personally, I'm very grateful that these people have gone before us. They have been able to set the tone. They have been able to create, to bring in the global recognition into the Nigerian space. Now, I am one of those who are taking advantage of the seeds that these people like Hilda Bassi and Tunde Onukoya has set, right? And I'm taking advantage of that. When it occurred to me to attempt this, I mean, I was already working in the culture space, and I thought, okay, these people have already gone ahead to do something. I can take advantage of the opportunities, the window that they have opened, and do what I'm already doing and do it on a bigger scale. I mean, really, that's what this is.
I think for me, Mazino, thank you so much for that, Famous. And I think my takeaway before I let you go and ask your questions is, again, I definitely agree that there are some that are extremely notable. We commend anyone who even attempts to do it. I know we had a gentleman in Ghana, as well that did the longest interview, something that I think you and I should contend to try and do, Mazino, by the way.
With News Central backing.
Yes, but I mean, like I said, there are some really, really commendable ones. Again, like I said, the young boy who is on the spectrum, who did the longest, the biggest Canva painting, of course. And I think what drew attention to that from a global scale, which is what I think I'll revert to famous again, is that after you have won the record, to translate that and make it something that raises awareness, not just necessarily, oh, well, I did it and it brings influence. I think that's something that
What's it a vehicle for?
Yes. What, Mazino?
What's it a vehicle for?
Yes, what is it?
What advocacy can you use it to carry? In this case, I see that culture is your thing, and which is very, we should appreciate it, but there's one thing, however. Now, the Guinness World Record is an international organization, and this is an international audience. Now, you did say that your documentary is going to be pure, in the sense that for every single culture that you cover, they are going to be sending this, they're going to be disseminating this message in their language, their colors, their mannerisms. And I'm wondering how you can translate this to an international audience to catch their attention without losing the identity of Nigeria. Because the international audience sometimes needs to be, spoon-fed our content. This is the reason why Nollywood seems a bit too modernized currently. So if we do not want to dilute your content, your documentary, how do you expect, what are your plans in trying to get the international audience to absolutely, apart from the subtitles, consume and buy into this dream?
The way I see about that is, look, we don't have to dilute anything. We don't have to spoon feed them. When we learned the culture of the international audience, they didn't dilute anything to benefit us. So if they get interested in learning about us, we should not simplify things. We should have to just present things the way they are. I will not go to these cultures and tell them, simply just do this in a way that other people are able to key into it. Be yourself. People who are interested in learning about you will dig in and learn about you. The easy way for them, the window to that is through the language, right? So the subtitle is going to be in English, so they are going to be able to connect through the language. If they are so interested in learning a bit more, they can travel down to Nigeria, which is where the tourism part of the thing comes from.
I think you just hit it there, and even Inam here agrees. You just hit it. If you want, travel down to Nigeria, and that is what we're find out. So that's the big idea. But now let's take it further. Is Nigeria ready to welcome these guests? Do we have a proper tourism mechanism in Nigeria? Have you researched that? Do you think that your advocacy here or your efforts here can somehow translate into us having better tourism? And what plans do you have for that?
All right, so right now, in the process of planning this project, I have been in touch with people like Ken, who is a tourist who takes tourists to visit the Niger Delta area. Ken, the ambassador, I think that's his name on Facebook and some other social media platform. Shout out to him. But he's been doing very fantastically. He goes around from place to place. He records videos about Andoni, which is one of the villages in the Niger Delta. And then he posts this on global platform, and people get to see this because of the stories he shares. People come around and they say, okay, they want to visit a place like this. And then they contact him, and then he takes them around. Ken is a tour guide. And then there are other tour guides, say in the north, in the southern part, in the eastern part, there are tour guides. So if we do projects like this and we put it out and people are so interested, there are these people in the country that they can contact to take them around for them to see live in person some of these stories that they have seen on screen or on social media. These platforms are there. Now, it's a different story for whether the government is doing something actively in that. I can't speak for the government. I won't be able to because I don't know enough. And I try to not make comments about things that I don't know enough about. So I think that's going to be for the ministry to answer.
They should travel down to you and say they want to partner.
So there's a bigger vision for something that I have, because we are documenting 51 ethnic groups out of the larger number that we have. As of my last check, and I'm not even sure that check is accurate, we have about 371 ethnic groups, not tribes, ethnic groups in Nigeria. As of my last check,
371.
see reasons to doubt that that number is even accurate, because I think it's more. So we are documenting 51 out of 371 that we currently have. If we document 51, we
what is the oddest one? What is the oddest culture? What is the oddest culture you are documenting? I don't mean oddest in a bad way, but I mean, what would we find surprising in this culture? Which one of these?
I'm really looking forward to finding out.
Oh, you don't know yourself?
Because we have started, right? We have started. We haven't gone around all the 51 cultures. So I can't really say. However, I'm looking forward to finding out. This is a learning opportunity about Nigeria for me, about even my own state for me. I come from Edo State. I don't know so much about the ethnic group that I come from. I don't know so much about the ethnic. So I can't even stand here and tell you this is the history of my people. I can't tell you. I don't know enough. I am part of the other millions of Nigerians who are going to be learning about Nigerian cultures, who are going to be learning about my culture and their individual cultures, about their cultures through this documentary. I am going to be learning, and if I'm learning, you will be learning, and every other person will learn as well. But for now, we are still documenting, so I can't really say like from one culture to the other. But I mean, Nigeria generally has very beautiful cultures, and we're looking forward to seeing it all play out.
Looking forward.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for this insight. I love what you said about it's their responsibility to learn our culture as well, Mazino. If you remember, there was a song, 2024.
You're gonna have to sing it if
Yes.
you're gonna sing it.
And the song was so simple. It said, Jerusalem ikayalam dilondoloze.
You're not singing it.
Jerusalem ikayalam dilondoloze. We didn't have to teach anybody that song. It was a hit, and because they wanted to adapt into that, they learned it. So I commend you and I salute you for the fact that it's not our responsibility to spoon feed. If it is captivating as it should be, they will invite themselves to the table. So thank you so much for that authenticity. It goes to my monologue about the brand called Africa as well. So thank you so much to the both of you gentlemen for not just representing Nigeria, but for representing Africa as a whole.
This is the part where Fado is going to give us his first magic trick for today and disappear. It's a joke. It didn't work. Sorry. Thank you very much, guys. We're looking forward to your records. Thank you. Let's do that magic trick now. Disappear for a second, and we'll be back with our final segment here on Breakfast Extra. Dry. Welcome back. It's our final segment here, and it's Focus Africa. Now we begin in South Africa, where Bellarmine Mugabe, the youngest son of former Zimbabwean leader Robert Mugabe, has been arrested and is facing charges of attempted murder. Now, authorities say the arrest follows a shooting incident at his Johannesburg residence, where a gardener sustained a gunshot wound and was left in critical condition. Our police have confirmed that Mugabe was detained, along with another suspect, and investigations are ongoing as authorities work to determine the circumstances surrounding the incident. This development has drawn attention across the continent, not just because of the seriousness of the charge, but also because of the Mugabe family's political legacy and influence in Zimbabwe and beyond.
Now, the arrest raises important legal and political questions about accountability, the rule of law, and the broader implications of one of Africa's most well-known political families. It also comes at a time when issues of leadership legacy, privilege, and justice continue to shape public discourse across the continent. Joining us now to unpack the legal and political dimensions of the story are Vusumuzi Sibanda, legal expert. We are also joined by Makomborero Haruvishe, political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Vusumuzi, Mazino, do you want to say something?
Yeah, Vusu, is it okay if I call you Vusu? Because it's plenty, and Inam didn't give me a class in, is it Zulu? Which is
yes,
it?
Yes, Vusumuzi is Zulu.
Yes. So Vusu, let's come to you.
Vusi is fine, not Vusu.
Vusi. Good, thank you, that's even better. Now Vusi, let's look at the legal points here. From a legal standpoint, Vusi, what does an attempted murder charge involve, and what process can we expect to follow in this case in the next coming days?
Well, look, for starters, you know, an attempted murder case is not necessarily a case that is opened, you know, or that is premised on what another individual who has been wronged is supposed to be saying, because the person, for example, that is shot becomes a witness, but that is a crime against the state. So the police officers, the investigators, and the prosecutors need to show that a crime was committed. And in this particular case, it might also include, especially because a firearm was used, it will probably also include ascertaining if the firearm was, licensed, the person who probably, did the shooting had a licensed firearm or not. So as long as there was a gun that was discharged in the premises and somebody was shot, the responsibility of the investigators will be first to ascertain that who discharged the firearm and where is that firearm. And if that information cannot be ascertained, what is important is therefore that, it will be seen that there are some people that are trying to defeat the ends of justice by, hiding information, which means that all the people that, were probably present during that period of time will have to be charged for defeating the ends of justice. And of course, other charges can also be added there in actually basically saying that if nobody left the premises, it means that the people that were in there, are tempted, to kill or murder, the person that was shot.
Vuzi, this is a high-profile case, considering the fact that it is Robert Mugabe's son that we're talking about here, a highly political, an individual with a very big political background to him. The South African judicial system has been noted to be one where people are not absolutely trusting of its systems. And I'm wondering how the South African justice system intends to tackle this case here. What could come of it? Would we see the same thing we've been seeing in other cases, like the Malanga case? Did I pronounce that right?
No, Matlanga.
Matlanga case. What are we expecting to see here? And that's the justice system versus the situation or circumstance that we find.
Well, look, maybe we're not likely to see, I think, considering the current status, of the Mugabe family, in that, the former president is now late. And of course, Miss Grace Mugabe has got her own, legal challenges in South Africa with, that assault charge. Now, what we are obviously looking at is that the likelihood is that anything that is going to happen in the normal course, of corruption cases that we have seen maybe take place in South Africa, where, cases may easily be swept under the carpet simply because the people that are accused, are people that have got enough resources to corrupt, the system, or to try and buy, are those that are investigating and make sure that, we've got weak, evidence, unsubstantiated evidence. They've not done enough in terms of their investigations, to the extent that the case might therefore be thrown out of court for lack of evidence, because one is not likely to think that there is a lot of political clout that might real play, especially in regards to calling it a high profile case in that particular regard. But of course, what we are looking at is that and we know the reason why we have the Matlanga Commission is that we know that the criminal justice system, including the judiciary, have been captured by people that have got lots of money and that can simply, buy, investigators and, cause, people to look, aside when something is happening. Remember, we've got cases like the one for, the former Orlando Pirates goalkeeper that has been going on for years. And it is very clear that obviously there's been, money exchanging hands, because, the evidence, tends to contradict each other here and there. And a lot of theories, basically come up. So we know that as long as there is money, the likelihood is that the case is likely, to go south rather than, go right. We are not likely to see justice because, people seem to be, very responsive, to good offers of money to ensure that, cases, can just disappear or be unsubstantiated.
Right. Mokomberero, I'd like to come to you because I know you join us from Zimbabwe. Controversy, of course, has always plagued the Mugabe name, positively and negatively as well. What are the responses and the reactions like in Zimbabwe with regards to this incident that occurred in Johannesburg?
People in Zimbabwe and Zimbabweans all over the world, they expect Bellarmine Mugabe to walk away with this because he's from a highly politically exposed family. They have gotten away with everything. His father got away with genocide, way over 20,000 were murdered in Matebeleland in Zimbabwe in the 1980s. His father got away with hundreds of political opposition activists killed and murdered. No accountability, even in 2008, where the numbers spiked. His father got away with the abduction of opposition activists and journalists, and some of them, like Ita Zamara, were never returned. And it's not only in Zimbabwe, it's also in South Africa, where his mom assaulted, and it bordered on attempted murder, considering the extent of the injuries on a South African citizen, Gabriela Angels. She wasn't arrested. Up to now, she has not been arrested. Up to now, she's not accounted for that. So the Zimbabweans expect Bellarmine to walk away just like that because he's politically exposed. But we also, as Zimbabweans, view the investigation into this case as more of an investigation into the South African justice system itself. We followed the Mahlanga Commission, we followed General Mpanasi's press conference, and we also have seen how the Zimbabwean government has pursued political activists in South Africa. And recently, on the 7th of February 2026, a political activist, Kudzai Weston Sarwaka, was assassinated in South Africa. No justice, no accountability has been done, and he was assassinated in the same manner in which Saif Bamboriki, a Rwandan opposition activist, was assassinated in February 2021, on the 21st of February in the year 2021. It was the similar fashion. They were running their own businesses. Someone orders merchandise from their businesses. They do deliver. Upon delivering, they are met with the hail of bullets. Nothing is stolen. Nothing is taken. And this is happening in South Africa. And when I mention these people, I'm trying to show how politically exposed people are getting away with swelling, are getting away with corrupting South African justice system. Because these are two that I mentioned, but there's also Carmen Nkurunziza, there is Patrick Karegeya. We all know of those cases from Rwanda. From Ethiopia, there is also Kesain Gebremeskel. These are just but few names. We even currently has a case of Job Sikala, an opposition member of parliament, who explosive planted in his car to assassinate him. He was arrested later on. He's facing charges, but everyone sees that these are politically exposed people who are targeting and getting away with serious crimes on South African soil.
Right, which is a very big problem. And Vusumuzi, I'll come to you on that. But before I go to Vusumuzi, Makomborero, Robert Mugabe, former President Robert Mugabe is deceased. So the son that has committed the crime is not the son of a sitting president. It is the son of a deceased president. And I know that, of course, there would generally be discussions at a higher parliamentary level. Has there been any statements from President Mnangagwa with regards to what has taken place?
No, there hasn't been a statement from President Mnangagwa. Just like there has not been a statement from him when this same Bellarmine assaulted a police officer at a roadblock some few months back. We all know that he will just get away with it. And there was no statement from President Mnangagwa. When this very same Bellarmine attacked and almost killed with several people with his gang of thugs who had AK-47s. They went there, cast the president didn't say anything, but behind the scenes, things were made to ensure, things were done to ensure that he doesn't go for that.
Okay, thank you so much. Vusumuzi, to you now. Makomborero made a comment about the incident that occurred a few years ago where the former wife to the president had assaulted a female, I think would have been in a hotel room. And at the time, she was not persecuted because there was a diplomatic pardon that was affiliated with her at the time, because I believe President Mugabe was still alive at the time. He is deceased. And the son in question is the son of again, I'll repeat, president that is no longer sitting. Do these diplomatic pardons still apply to a child of a no longer sitting president? And if they do, why would that be the case?
Well, look, I think if you remember what happened with Miss Grace Mugabe is that when this happened, she was indeed, offered or rather, some diplomatic immunity by the then, Minister of DECO or International Relations, which the court then overturned. Now, obviously, the fact that we're talking about it today, would obviously assume that if the courts, had insisted that she should be prosecuted, it means that there are no, extradition, treaties between South Africa and Zimbabwe, and that would be obviously untrue. One would obviously, say that it means that the case was either settled in some way or the other, or the diplomatic, immunity obviously, was then discussed and the matter vented, beyond, the public eye. Because if that was not the case, we have seen quite a number of people being extradited, from South Africa to Zimbabwe, or at least the government seeking to extradite people so that they can go and face justice, and there should be no exception if that principle applies. Now, the fact that Bellarmine is a son of former president who's not a sitting but a late president, we know that one of the issues is that is he in South Africa? The first question that we want to ask ourselves is that in what capacity is he in South Africa? Mm-hmm. He's obviously not in South Africa on government business. Is it because when he comes to South Africa, he's carrying a diplomatic passport? If he's carrying a diplomatic passport and he uses a diplomatic passport, then it might obviously therefore mean that the diplomatic status has not been revoked. And as a result, there would be a need to look at, those particular considerations. And in the same way that, the courts refused, the diplomatic immunity that was, granted to Ms. Grace Mugabe, during her case, even when the husband was still alive. I mean, the courts could easily say, well, look, she was not coming on diplomatic business. Using a diplomatic passport does not necessarily mean that, one is on a diplomatic, tour, and as a result, they are immune to prosecution should they, when they come to do shopping and then they find themselves, contravening the laws of the country, then they're exonerated. Because remember that ordinarily, the diplomats that reside in other countries are offered this immunity so that they are prosecuting their countries because they are in the country in diplomatic space, which does not allow them to really be fully, exposed to the laws of those countries. So in this particular case, as much as, that issue of diplomatic immunity might then come up, it will probably come up on the basis that if he's using a diplomatic passport, but again, does he enjoy, that immunity because is he on, diplomatic space where basically he should not be? But I think that all those will speak to the contrary of a favor for him being treated, with the diplomatic immunity, because the people would obviously then go into other countries because they carry diplomatic passports, right, and yet they're not diplomats and, commit various crimes. And then they would not be, they would be exonerated. I think we've seen quite a number of people, government officials, being arrested and taken from other countries, because they have committed crimes there. So I don't think that the diplomatic card is going to work, for Mr. Bellarmine Mugabe.
Right. Okay. And final one before I let you go. Now, in terms of due diligence and processes, has SAPS followed all the necessary processes? I know that the weapon in question had not yet been found as it was last reported. And secondly, there were speculations that the victim that was shot said he did not remember who shot him. Now, in terms of the, again, necessary processes that are supposed to be adhered to with this kind of profile, is the SAPS doing all the necessary measures to, cover all their grounds?
We wouldn't know, obviously, because they would not maybe tell us about, everything that they are doing. But some of the basic issues what we see from the social media and what we read is basically that a gun residue test was not done to ascertain if, the people that have been taken, did fire a firearm or not, because those are the simple basics that needs to be, done when there's been a gunshot, to test before there's been any tampering that is there a gunshot residue or gun residue, that is found on the fingers of the people that are suspected to have, shot this guy. Whether this guy does not remember or does remember, at the end of the day, it's not something that will be dealt with, in court, because obviously he would have to, if he does not remember, if he was shot in the head and cannot remember or did not really see who shot him, that does not mean there is no case, because the firearm was discharged, and that firearm must be found and determined whether it's licensed or not, and he might also be tested to see if he has been bought and at the end of the day defeating the ends of justice, and if he's defeating the ends of justice, he's also going to be charged.
Vusi, I want to say thank you to you and Marco for joining us for this segment here to, give some light on the instance here concerning the child of the former Zimbabwean president. I want to say thank you very much, gentlemen. I promise next time I'll brush up in my Zulu and be able to do more. But I'm looking forward to see where this issue will go, because I'm interested especially in the South African justice system since the previous cases. And I really want to know what exactly is going to transpire here, especially that it involves a national of a different country and not just anyone, but a high-profile one. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And indeed, here is where we get to say goodbyes for the weekend, because we have had such a very interesting one since the start of yesterday, from the elections up until today, and then, this very last conversation here, of which I forgot to say. Indibuzi. Don't worry, if you know,
you should have asked Vusi. I should have asked Vusi.
Perhaps I should have. But thank you for being with us, as well as our viewers all the way from yesterday. We'll continue to give you details about the Abuja elections and the results and what's transpiring between the parties or supporters of the parties since yesterday right here. So do stay with us, because our reporters and correspondents will be joining us throughout the entire day up until the end of it. But for us, it's goodbye and thank you. But do join our colleagues tomorrow morning, Jonathan, Olive, and of course Gbenga, as they bring you Breakfast Central. Until then, it's bye-bye.
Fabulous week to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.